Another day, another One Piece match to get the people angry. Today, we will be covering the infamous Yonko Commander versus Yonko Commander matchup of all time, that being Katakuri versus King. They are the two respective right hands of the two allied Yonkos in Wano, that being Kaido and Big Mom, and since they both hold such a high reputation in the community, I decided to break down as to why this is probably the biggest mismatch in all of One Piece. I'm not gonna lie, you guys need to stop setting up my GOAT Katakuri for failure, because you guys are making this too easy on me, man. Anywho, let's discuss both characters' powers and abilities to determine the superior commander. Firstly, we got Katakuri, who I'll be going over first since he has basically one fight to really go off of. God damn it, my freaking phone. In his battle with Luffy, we see him no-selling blows from Gear 4, which was the same form Luffy used to put down Awakened Doflamingo. And he should specifically be much more powerful from his encounter with Cracker. So not only is this Luffy way stronger than the one in the Doffy fight, but he'd grow way more powerful to the point where his base form would actually do better than his Gear 4 self. And despite this, he still ended up using a stronger variation of Gear 4 than Bounce Man to barely beat Katakuri. This would mean Katakuri from the start of the fight was multiple times more powerful than Luffy and likely would have gotten even stronger by the end of the fight. So although he lost, he's still someone who's a threat to Snakeman Luffy and pretty much up until he goes on to train in Udon. As far as Katakuri's abilities, Katakuri is known for having some of the best observation haki in the series as he can see into the future. Although it's just for a few seconds, this allows Katakuri to completely dodge and evade anything coming his way as he's seeing the move before you even make it. Only problem with this is that Katakuri needs to be calm, meaning if the enemy frustrates Katakuri, then he won't be able to dodge to his fullest ability. His devil fruit is the mochi fruit, which allows Katakuri to overwhelm the opponents with versatile moves like donut rings, giant punches, mochi traps, and etc. And Katakuri's endurance is something to not slouch on and will 100% give the wildfire a hard time. And so now, with Katakuri out of the way, let's talk about Kaido's strongest soldier, King. The Lunarian, in contrast to Katakuri, is more so notorious for his durability rather than his speed and versatility. Due to his DNA, this allows him to suffer virtually no damage from even most high tiers. Even after taking multiple hits from Marco, Sanji, and even Zoro after recovering from his fight with Kaido, he still managed to suffer no real damage until Zoro started awakening advanced conquerors. By this point, King just kinda got outmatched and couldn't do much, but before this point, he was overwhelming Zoro with his flames off and on. For those who are confused with King's abilities and what his flames being on and off really mean, allow me to explain. Basically, when the flame behind King's back is on, this allows his durability to be at its max, and that's why it's so hard to really hurt him. However, when his flames are off, his speed increases along with his attack potency. However, it lowers his durability. King in his flames off form is able to overwhelm the likes of Zoro after fighting on Onigashima, the same one who half dead could react to Kaido and perform better than the initial Gear 4 Luffy on Rooftop. Granted, when Zoro used all of Enma's power, King just got folded, but we have to remember that King is still the strongest all-star, meaning he's far above the other Tobi roppos who are also forcing a stronger Luffy to go into Gear 4. Now, we don't know if Luffy in Gear 4 would just one-shot ulti or not, or if ulti's relative. What we do know is that a much stronger Luffy from Whole Cake needs to use a stronger gear than Gear 3. And King with his flames on anyway could tag and damage Marco, who could react to Kaido, so to say that King is in that similar tier with these characters, it's not really inaccurate, and when in doubt, King could utilize his best move, which is the Fire Dragon Emperor. A powerful sword strike where King not only emits his sword with flames, but proceeds to spawn a couple of magma dragon heads that you now have to get past in order to then clash and proceed to overpower King. Yeah, what I just described was basically like an Elden Ring mini-boss, but that's pretty much King's skill set though, and with that we can now talk about the fight scenario. We'll say Katakuri somehow made it to Wano, and the next thing King knew, he's just standing there against Big Mom's right hand. I don't really know how these two would specifically interact or where in Wano. I don't know what act in Wano. Leave me alone. I'm more so focused on the fight itself. So, similar to how the two Yonkos act towards each other, due to their respects towards the respective emperor they serve under, God, that was such a tongue twister, they'd immediately clash heads to prove which crew is superior. Katakuri would probably let King make the first move and staying calm, allowing him to catch him off guard with his observation haki and devil fruit. As Katakuri is about to go in for a strike, King would parry the blow with his sword, showing he too is not slow, and it's not going to be easy for Katakuri to put him down. King would back up with the two then preparing their respective devil fruit powers, and the fight would commence. Now, let's address the obvious elephant in the room, and that's the absurd difference between Luffy and Whole Cake and Luffy and Wano. You see, after getting one-shotted by Kaido, he ends up going on a whole training arc to learn a new type of haki in order to cause any type of damage towards Kaido. We then see base Luffy proceed to do better than his Gear 4 self thanks to Rio, and he then used Gear 4 on top of this, and yet Zoro was still superior to him during the first raid. This same Zoro goes on to tap into advanced conquerors and recover from his injuries, and yet goes high diff with King in the end. Granted, the moment he uses advanced conquerors, like I said previously, King just gets folded like an omelet, but him scaling to Zoro even before this would mean King is at the very least multiple times stronger than Katakuri. And due to him unironically being able to tag people like Marco who could react to Kaido, and Zoro even during the first raid could do this anyway, King with his flames on is unironically moving and reacting faster than Katakuri. For those who are gonna bring up how Snakeman blitzed hybrid Kaido, like I said, this Luffy is literally dozens of times more powerful than the one in Whole Cake, so trying to compare that Snakeman to the one that fought Katakuri is just illogical. Unless you really want to say that Katakuri can hurt the likes of Yamato and Gear 4 Luffy after unlocking advanced conquerors, then you know what, be my guest. King just gets one-shotted, but for those who are not trying to push an agenda, King could probably one-shot Katakuri. It sounds bad, I know, but it's unironically true. Katakuri's endurance is insane, but it's not gonna really matter if he already at full power can't even harm King. Like, King unironically could just stand still the whole time, wear Katakuri out, and one-shot him. This fight just isn't fair, bro. This is why I said at the beginning of the video, this is One Piece's, like, greatest mismatch of all time. Katakuri really isn't that strong, and until he comes back and starts forcing Egghead Luffy to use Rio or something, bro is not getting past Chopper or Nami unironically.